I wanted to go over lesson 105 with you because we went over it pretty quickly in class today. And it's not hard, but it is something you have to be very careful with. So first of all, we're talking about powers with negative bases. And all that means is, I want to make sure you remember, we talked about this in class, but the difference between -3 squared and -3 squared. Those are two different problems. The first one, because of the parentheses, means -3 times -3. A negative times a negative is a positive, so the answer to this first one is 9. This one is a little bit different though. Like I said in class, the exponent is always stuck to the base, so we have to do that part first. So we don't even look at this negative sign and we think, what is 3 squared? Well, 3 squared is 9, and now we add the negative sign. So this one is -9. So it's important to know the difference between these two. If it's in parentheses, it's a +9 because a negative times a negative is a positive. And this one, you do the exponent, which is stuck to the base. 3 is the base. 3 squared is 9, and you add the -9. So then when we get to problems like a squared minus ab squared minus b squared, they're asking you to simplify that if a equals -2 and b equals -3. So we have to be really careful when we do these problems that we know where the parentheses, where these things go. A squared, we have to put -2 in for a. So we make sure that the -2 stays together as an a, and then we square it. It's kind of like, you can imagine if we draw these little dotted lines, that's the a. Do you see that? That's the a. And -2 is all part of a, so it all has to be in there. We're going to carry down their negative sign. We have an a again, so that's -2. So again, we want to put that in parentheses so that we can remember that that's all part of a. Now we have a b squared. B is -3, so the same thing. We have to put that in parentheses and then square it because this is all part of b. Again, we could, if it makes it easier, draw the dotted lines so that you can see the b there. And then we're going to subtract b squared, which we put that in parentheses and then square it. -3 is equal to b. So again, with the little dotted lines to help you see that that's b squared. So now that we have our parentheses, that will help us keep our signs correct. So here we have -2 in parentheses squared. It's like this one up here. -2 squared is -2 times -2. A negative times a negative is a positive, so this equals 4. Then we're going to subtract. Now we have -2 times -3 squared. Right up here we see that -3 squared is 9. So we are multiplying a -2 times a +9. -2 times 9. That's going to give us a negative, because a negative times a positive is a negative. So that is -18. So we are subtracting a -18. Now we're going to subtract this last part right here, which is -3 squared. -3 squared is 9, so we are going to subtract 9. Now from here, we go ahead and simplify. 4 minus a negative always makes that a plus, like we talked about in class. So 4 minus a negative is the same as 4 plus 18, and then minus 9. 4 plus 18 is 22, and 22 minus 9 is 13. So that is the answer to a squared minus ab squared minus b squared if a equals -2 and b equals -3. I'm going to do one more just to make sure that you have it. So in this case, we're going to do a squared times b minus b. And we're going to evaluate that if A equals -2 and B equals -3. So we have our A squared. Remember, we're going to keep A in parentheses. All of this is A, so we want to keep that in parentheses. So it's -2 squared. Those parentheses are very important because if you just wrote -2 squared, that's a different answer. That becomes 2 squared, which is 4, with a negative sign in front of it, and that's not what we want. We want to keep all of A in parentheses. Now we have a B. We're going to put that in parentheses as well. That's a -3. So these two are being multiplied by each other, A squared times B. We're going to subtract a B. We'll put it in parentheses so it stays together. B is -3. So now we have our problem in that we can go ahead and solve very carefully. -2 squared is -2 times -2, which is a +4. So that's 4 times -3 minus a -3. When you subtract a negative, it's the same as adding a positive. Now we have 4 times -3, which is -12. We're going to add 3. -12 plus 3 is -9. And that's the answer to our problem. So just be very careful when you're putting in these values for A and B that you put them in parentheses. That way you will not make this mistake over here. Good luck.